So then I said, Kendrick might be the better rapper, but Kanye's the better artist. And we are back. Hi, my name is Jackson Burns, and you are watching Channel 3947 News. Our main story of the day, Joe Jorgensen has shockingly won the presidential election, receiving every single electoral college vote. In far less shocking news, Luke Stone, self-proclaimed real 35-year-old man, has received only one single vote. But honestly, f*** this guy. Luke, if you're watching this, you're a prick. A prick and a f***ing virgin, and I hope you die in a hole, you waste of flesh and f***ing oxygen. Anyways, Luke has gone missing. No one's seen him since the election, and every time the media goes to his house for an interview, he's no longer there. But I could care less, honestly. F*** this guy, am I right?
Oh, good morning home. Wait. Okay, so I'm gonna make a big guess here, but I'm gonna guess that I've been kidnapped. I fucking hate being right. You know, I really should be a little more pissed about this whole kidnapping situation or whatnot, but you know what I'm really pissed about? The fucking election. I should have won that shit. You know, if I won, I would run this country like a king. A cruel king.
Ah, King Krule, aka the guy who proved that gingers are human too. Anyways, King Krule, aka Archie Marshall, aka Zoo Kid, aka Edgar the Beatmaker, Jesus Christ, this guy needs to figure out what name to go with, is a 26-year-old musician from London, England that began making music at a very young age. He started releasing music under the Zoo Kid moniker back in 2010, but quickly switched over to King Krule the next year. Interestingly, his name actually isn't named after King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong games, but instead off of an old Elvis Presley film, King Krule. Well, at least that's what the Wikipedia article says, but if you ask me, that's a bunch of horse shit. Anyways, after switching his stage name, he would go on to release a self-titled EP, but blah blah blah, I don't really care. We're talking about his debut album, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon. Now, before we start talking about the album, I just want to discuss how I first got introduced to Archie's music. Me being the sad, pathetic, white guy music lover I am, I constantly look around music rating sites, whether that be Rate Your Music or Album of the Year. I always enjoy looking at year-end or all-time ranking lists from people just to get a grasp of what records people are enjoying. Trust me, it's all curiosity. It's definitely not some weird stalker thing or whatever. Anyways, I remember back in 2017, I was looking at some people's list for what their favorite albums of the year had been, and I always landed upon this album. Nowadays, I recognize this to be the cover of one of my favorite albums of all time, but then I didn't really think anything of it and just moved on. Over the years, I would browse these same music sites minding my own business when out of nowhere, this cover would pop up again and again. It wasn't often the record showed up, but something about the album's artwork and title always intrigued me to the point to further investigate it. I don't know what was better at grabbing my attention. Was it the minimalist cover art of a blue sky with a streak of hot pink shooting across the cover like a rocket? Or was it the cryptic yet catchy title, The Ooze? Finally, one day after looking into the album a bit further, I pulled up the album on Apple Music, stared at the track list, and did absolutely nothing.
I don't know what the hell I was doing. I kept seeing the album, I just never got the chance to listen to it. I was either being extremely lazy, or I could just tell with my proud American heart that the guy who made the album was British. Like, come on dude, it's not bosom. Just say boobs like a normal person.
Anyways, I didn't really think about King Krule or The Ooze for a really long time until the beginning of this year when I was about to go to Washington, D.C. for a week. I wanted some new music to listen to for the long ride I was about to take, and when I browsed Apple Music's new music section, I came across this album cover for a record titled Man Alive by King Krule, not to be confused with Man Alive by the band Everything Everything. I immediately recognized the artist name and went to go look at his other albums, and there again, I saw The Ooze. Something this time finally got me to listen to it.
Yeah, I definitely forgot he was fucking British.
So I finally listened to this guy's music and oh my god, holy f***, oh my god. I hadn't really heard anything like it up to that point. It was such a unique blend of art rock, post-punk, jazz rock, and so many other genres. I was hooked. And the next thing I know, he was all I was listening to for a good 5-month period. So me being super into Archie's music, I thought it'd be cool to cover all 3 of his albums under the King Krule name in 3 separate videos, one for each album he's released so far. And today we're starting that adventure with his debut album, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon.
Yeah, maybe hyped to review this, but don't think I'm gonna go too easy on him. Besides, he's a ginger, and if you know anything about white people and spices, it's that we don't get along. Like, who knows, maybe I'll think the music is too spicy or something.
Now, the sound of this album, from what I can gather, had been under development even during Archie's Zoo Kid days, as on his old Zoo Kid Bandcamp, you can actually find old raw versions of many songs that would land on this record, such as Out Getting Ribs, Ocean Bed, Has This Hit, and a few others. Even though I find the more refined versions that land on this album much better, the original cuts are still worth a listen just to see the progression each track went through in a span of a few years. I'll leave a link in the description for anyone that wants to check it out. Anyways, in both his old and new songs, I think the first thing that sticks out to the listener, other than the slick reverb guitars, has to be Archie's vocal delivery. He is a low-toned crooner, and his voice is so emotive and raw. He doesn't necessarily scream, but he is yelling to the point where it feels like he's really pushing the lyrics out of his body. With the stark contrast to the somewhat minimalistic and mellow instrumentation, it could take a while for some listeners to completely get used to it. Trust me, it took me a bit to fully appreciate what Archie was going for with his voice, but once it clicks, it really fucking clicks. This album to me is probably Krule's most accessible, as it has a much more poppier feel to the whole thing compared to The Ooze or Man Alive. I'd say this album out of all of his has the biggest surf rock influence, giving tracks like Easy Easy and The Crocodile a fun and vibrant atmosphere. Like, if you removed Archie's vocals from any of these songs and just placed some eclectic stock pop singer on top of the tracks, the mainstream appeal would most likely go off the roof. However, this poppier feel isn't just in how the album sounds, but the actual flow of the record as well. This has to be the only Krule project where you could feasibly listen to any song you want without feeling responsible to listen to the rest of the cuts after it. Sure, you can listen to only one song off of any of his other albums and forget about the rest of them. You can pretty much do that with any album you want. But while The Ooze and Man Alive feel like more holistic experiences that combine many different genres into one piece of art, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon feels more like tiny vignettes where Archie allows each individual style its own chance to shine. For example, Neptune Estate has more of a trip-hop flavor to it, where A Lizard State feels like a straight-up surf rock / jazz rock song. You would think that this would make the album feel cluttered, but the vibe and emotion of the album stays consistent throughout, which I think makes up for the genre hopping and allows a full listen to feel consistent throughout. Another thing that makes the album consistent throughout is the lyrics. Speaking of lyrics, if there were 2 words that could describe the lyrical content on this album, it would be teenage angst. However, when some people hear that, they expect some half-baked, shitty lyrics off of a Trippie Redd song, but no, these lyrics are actually great. Of course, it's not all about being sad and being neglected by society at large. Instead, you get a few tracks about Archie's rebellious teenage years, like Easy Easy, where the track mainly focuses on him being hassled by the cops, but then cleverly twist it to show how it's difficult in England to get away from that rebellious lifestyle. Or in the song A Lizard State, where Archie comes off with this self-confidence and swagger that really isn't seen on the rest of the record, and it really lets the track stand out in a great way. But for the most part, this album is full of that sad boy stuff all the ladies like, and I feel like King Krule recognizes that too. He even described Baby Blue on his old Bandcamp as being quote-unquote full of the cliches of a teenager's love angst. And yeah, this song pretty much boils down to that. But what lets Archie's lyrics stand out is just how poetic they all sound. In the song Baby Blue, the opening line sounds directly out of one of those poems you would read in high school English. My sandpaper sigh engraves a line into the rust of your tongue. Girl, I could have been someone to you. Would have painted the skies blue. God damn, if I submitted that to my English lit class, I would get an instant A, no doubt. It's not that the words in the track are hard to decipher. I mean, anyone with half a brain could realize he's talking about his gritty accent and a relationship with a girl that he wished could have gone further. But it's not the actual content of these lyrics that make them so great. Instead, it's Archie's use of imagery. These lyrics, while simple, are very effective at creating a scene in the listener's mind. And on top of that, for a bunch of people out there, these lyrics are relatable as hell. Other than being really poetic, full of imagery, and relatable, they're just so well written and catchy as well. You might be wondering, well, if they're doing all those previous things well, then why wouldn't they be well written? Well, here's my point to that. Everyone has read a poem where it's full of emotional garbage that they know the author doesn't actually mean, or it's just full of big words that aren't even necessary, and they're just there to make the poet look smarter. When King Krule writes his lyrics, they're full of simplistic language that anyone can sit down and understand without giving up his strong technical ability in songwriting. Also, when Archie writes down some sad lyrics, he means it. they're genuine. If any writer's work isn't genuine, then it immediately loses a lot of merit, at least for me. The author should be 100% involved with whatever they're writing, and it is totally noticeable in King Krule's music that he cares about the words he is singing in his songs. Long story short, his lyrics aren't an afterthought. They're just a step into making the best product possible. Finally, it's a song, not a paper for English class. You want to actually make lyrics that people can sing along to, and arguably, this is Archie's best album in that regard, with some of the stickiest and catchiest hooks he's ever written. In the future, Archie's songwriting and delivery of his lyrics would become more inspired by spoken word, and sure, while the catchiness factor goes down because of this, I would argue that this change only makes Archie's songwriting even more unique, but that's a topic for another day.
You know, I was thinking more and more about this whole kidnapping situation, and I finally came down to one conclusion. The guy who put me in here is a big jerk. Seriously, this room sucks. First off, the door's locked, so I can't even leave. Second off, there's bricks on the wall, so it feels like I'm in a jail cell. And third, the guy's choice of room decorations, blows. Seriously, look. Every self-proclaimed dumbass has a flag like that.
Now, I could talk for days and days about my analytical viewpoints about what King Krule did or didn't do well on a technical level with this album. However, that doesn't really matter in the long run. All that matters is what I think of the songs themselves. So let's go track by track and say how I feel about each song here. Easy Easy works as a really fun intro song to the album. The guitar riffs are full of life and have this super youthful feeling to them. This also is one of Archie's most memorable and popular songs, which is not surprising with a fantastic hook around the middle of the track. I'd say the only complaint I have with this track is that I feel like he could have done more instrumentally. The bare bones guitar works for the vibe of the track, but I feel like the incorporation of drums, at least during the hook, would have amplified this track even more. He does it whenever this song is played live, and it sounds amazing. I just wish he did this on the record. The next track, Borderline, has a much smoother feel than the previous track, and might just be the perfect song to listen to in your car with the windows down during a warm summer day. It's very vibey. However, the lyrics contrast the sound greatly, as it is some of the saddest lyrical content on the album, and most detailed as well. When it comes to the structure of the track, I find myself being a little underwhelmed during the verses. I don't know why it doesn't do much for me. It's probably just I find myself waiting for the far superior chorus section, where the guitar riffs change up and Archie changes his vocal delivery somewhat. I still like this track quite a bit, but if the verses were as enjoyable as the chorus, I would enjoy it more. Probably the best out of the first three cuts, Has This Hit feels like two separate songs pushed together into one. The first half has a dark, spacey atmosphere that allows Krule's vocals to echo throughout the entire track. After a quick breakdown near the middle, it switches to one single guitar that rides the track out. This song is incredible, but I just wish the drums in the beginning had a bit more flair to them. Overall, great song. 4 and 2, in my opinion, is the first dud in the track list. It is very minimal with the production, and it feels like a 40-second lo-fi beat that got stretched out to 3.5 minutes. And in fact, this song just feels like it should have been an interlude, but it was made into a full song. The ideas on here aren't fully realized either, and because of this, it creates a somewhat forgettable track. It's fine, I guess, but if I'm not listening to this album in full, you won't catch this song playing on my speakers anytime soon. Ceiling picks the album up a tiny bit. The bass on this song is great, and can easily get stuck in anyone's head. I even find myself humming it from time to time. This track would work much better as an interlude cut than 4 and 2 would, but it suffers from the same issue of being way longer than it needs to be. So it's better than the last song, but it's still just alright. The next song, Baby Blue, is probably the most popular song off the album, and it's Krule's most popular song in general. It has a very mellow vibe that's perfect for depressed teenagers to cry to in their bed in the middle of the night, so no wonder it's popular. Anyways, it's pretty good. After that, the song Sentimentality, in my opinion, is the darkest cut on the record. It is a strong emotional high point on the album, if not the strongest. I love this song, but part of me feels like Archie treats this part of the album as an interlude instead of the songs 4 and 2 and Ceiling, and I wish he fleshed out the instrumental a little bit more. Despite this, I still love this song, and it's a great lead in to the next song, A Lizard State. Holy f***, this song is so f***ing good. Holy f***, holy crap, holy moly, holy f***. The jazzy flavor of this song mixed with the surf rock guitar riff makes this song such a joy to listen to. Every single verse hits, the chorus hits, the mellow outro hits, everything in this song just hits. This song is a goddamn banger. Easily one of my favorites on the album. Will I Come is finally a song that perfectly fits the vibe of an interlude. It's simple, doesn't go on for too long, and the ideas that King Krule goes for on the track are fully fleshed out. Even though it's not a favorite of mine, the execution on this track is damn near perfect. Speaking of favorites, another favorite of mine is Ocean Bed. This is probably the most beautiful song on the record. Even though it's one of the most bare-bone cuts here, with just Krule's voice, a single guitar, a bass, and drums for tiny sections throughout the song, it is one of the most memorable songs on the record to me, and has become one of my favorite King Krule songs in general. This song is just amazing. Neptune Estate is the most trip-hop type song on the album, with a very lo-fi drum loop, I think an electric piano, a simple bass, and a bunch of saxes around the middle of the track making up the instrumental. This song is another super vibey cut from Archie, but I feel like it gets a little repetitive around the end. Despite that, it's still a standout track. The Crocodile is great. That's all I really want to say about this track. It's just really good. I would say more, but I'm already on page 9 of the script and I'm getting way too tired to write, so I just want to finish this really badly. The next song, Out Getting Ribs, is just phenomenal. The emotions on this song are so poignant. You can really tell Archie is pouring his heart out with this song. The minimal nature of this track is the most intimate here than it is on the rest of the record. And finally, the lyrics are the best on the entire album. They are incredible, and I'm jealous that Archie wrote this song when he was only 15 years old. It also makes me feel like I haven't accomplished anything in my life. So yeah, thanks a lot, Archie. Your amazing song has caused me an existential crisis. Thanks, pal. But for real, I'm happy this was the final song on the album. It was an amazing way to end the record. Oh wait, it wasn't. Yeah, the album actually ends with the song Bathed in Grey, easily the most underwhelming song here. It's sort of like 4 and 2 in a way for me, but instead of me actually somewhat liking it, I'm just painfully indifferent towards this song. Like, I don't love it and I don't hate it, it's just there. This is easily one of my least favorite King Krule songs in general, just because it feels so unnecessary. I feel like if the album ended without getting ribs, it would have been a much more satisfying closer. And finally, for real, that is my opinion on every single track on the album.
Jesus Christ, that took way too long.
So, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon. I think for Archie's first official studio album, he really hit it out of the park. He was able to combine so many different songs branching from so many different genres to not feel very all over the place, and in result, was able to make an emotional grab bag of songs that vary from mood to mood that I feel like most listeners could pick up. Before his next record under the King Krule moniker, Archie decided to release an album under his actual name, with the album A New Place to Drown. This record would turn out to be very different from his previous and future works, as it was essentially an abstract hip-hop beat tape. He wouldn't continue this sound much after this release, but it did begin the drastic change for Archie to experiment with more holistic experiences within his albums. This experimental nature not only continued with how he wanted his records to flow from one track to the next, but the actual sound of the music as well. On his next record under the King Krule name, The Ooze, he would essentially go full-on art rock and create an abstract masterpiece that combined the sounds of post-punk, jazz rock, trip-hop, and experimental rock all into one piece. A piece that sonically can only be described by the title of the album, The Ooze. But that discussion is for another day. To conclude, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon is a great beginning for King Krule and showed the world that he had much potential. While I'd say this album is sort of the odd man out when you compare it to his newer releases, I think it's still a very worthwhile listen. However, the best was yet to come from Archie Marshall. So if I had to rate this album, I would give it a I have to pretend I hate this because the guy who made it is Ginger, but I actually secretly like it out of 10.
Well, geez, that truly was a 6 Feet Beneath the Moon by King Krule review, am I right, guys? But now I have nothing to keep my mind off the fact that I'm kidnapped! Sigh. If only I had some information about how I got here. Specifically, if I got that information right now, I would want it to slide underneath the locked door across the room right now. I f***ing called that. Dear Luke, it's your old pal V again. I saw that you decided to quit your road trip, but there's no way I'm going to let that happen. Thankfully, after you inhaled marker fumes for 2 days straight and passed out, sort of just grabbed your body and dropped you in this room. Oh, okay. Anyways, once you finally decide to finish that road trip, just write me back. Once you do, I'll let you know how to get out of the room. You better finish that road trip, or else. Best wishes, V. Yeah, so, I don't need V's help. I don't need his help at all. You know, I can get out of this room on my own. I don't need his help. I don't need anyone's help. I don't need help at all.